Welcome to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I'm your host, Jackie Hermans. So, today on the show, we're going to be talking to parenting expert and family counselor Allison Schaefer. Now, Allison has her own show on Rogers TV called The Parenting Show, and please, you're going to want to check that out. So, on today's show, she's going to be talking about how to have these challenging discussions with your kids, such as the war that's going on between the Ukraine and Russia. This topics such as those can be challenging, and kids can be impacted about the way you do have these discussions with them. So make sure you keep watching. We're also going to have the Durham Humane Society on. So all that and more on Uxbridge Scugog Life. Make sure you keep the dial tuned here to Rogers TV. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
I'm Jonathan Van Bilsen, and I've had the opportunity to spend my life traveling and photographing exotic locales around the world. Thanks to Rogers TV, I'm now able to share my adventures with you on my show, Photos and Travel, right here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So I have the host of the Parenting Show on Rogers TV, Allison Schaefer, with us. Allison is a parenting expert, a family counselor. Allison, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, I thought it was really important to have your expertise on the show to help parents. There's a lot that's been going on within the media that can be really tricky to talk to our children about, such as the war that's going on with the Ukraine, between the Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
So why is it important, first of all, for us to be really cognizant of how we're going to talk about certain topics with our kids in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, we do need to be cautious. There's a developmental piece here that's really important. I mean, obviously, we want to look after the psychological well-being of our children. And so how they're interpreting world events and things that are happening around them is really important to their sort of fundamental need to feel safe and secure. And the truth about children is they are very good observers, but they are very bad interpreters. And so they come up with all kinds of wild and crazy understandings that can lead to all kinds of other manifestations of their emotions. And because I think parents know that kids internalize some of this and get things wrong, and they want to protect them from big emotions and scary events, parents are very cautious of their words. So they tend to be tongue-tied. They kind of default to saying nothing because they're worried whatever will come out of their mouth won't be right. Or that they'll make things worse, or they don't know what to say. They feel ill-prepared. They feel ill-prepared for these conversations. So I'm hoping in our conversation today that I can say both, yes, it's important, and you got this. Like, don't panic. Don't panic.
Wonderful. Well, you just did. So thank you. So with saying nothing, those parents are like, let's just change the subject. Why should we be concerned about that as well?
You can't turn a blind eye. You can't turn a blind eye because, like I said, when our kids are little, and we'll go through each of the sort of important stages that I think parents should be aware of. But the truth is they are getting exposure to this more in today's modern 24/7 news cycle with kids on technology all the time. But even if you have a little kid and you go into Tim Hortons and you're just picking up Timbits and two people are talking about it, or the TV monitors on on in the little lounge area, you kind of don't have 100% control of what your kids are exposed to. So they are interpreting these things. They are seeing these images. They're coming up with something. And in the absence of having a discussion, they can make faulty conclusions. You know, I was teaching Sunday school after 9/11. And I was blown away by the various interpretation of the events that happened. And again, from some kids didn't even know it happened, whatever, and other kids thinking that a bomb's going to drop on their house tonight. If you don't have those conversations, how can you step in and do effective parenting unless you kind of know what's going on in that developing brain?
Right. All right. So preparing yourself to talk to your children about challenging subjects. Are there certain age categories you think, okay, well, this age category, this is the approach I would take, and then this age category, this is the approach?
Absolutely. So let's start with our youngest and work our way through. I think it gets more exciting as you get older and it gets more complicated, maybe a bit more challenging. So let's start with the littlest ones. The first thing to realize, and we've only just learned this recently from research on kids' responses to images, that you might think that when you have an 18-month-old just sitting, playing with their little Lego pieces on the floor, sucking on their bottle, and you're watching the news on television, you might think, well, what does this kid know what's going on? This, but they actually are able to detect that seeing exploding buildings, seeing people in flak gear, hearing loud noises, hearing the frantic voice of people being interviewed, even though they can't make sense of their world, they will have a cortisone stress reaction to that. And so we really say that as a parenting principle, where you have little kids, and I'm going to say under 7, you probably have the most control of their environment than you ever have in the rest of their lives. And so the go-to is turn off the radio in the car if they're in their car seat and you're going to the grocery store and the news comes on. Turn off the television set. They can see those images. You really want to kind of go for a zero exposure in our very littlest of kids. But even then, let's say they do see something and now they're getting closer to the 5, 6, 7, and they're just asking a question about, something came up and, they're watching Paw Patrol and something comes up in the YouTube feed. Who knows how these things creep in. Then you do need to answer their questions and you need to answer it truthfully. We always want to be the teller of truth to our kids, but it's really about sort of the law of omissions, if that makes any sense. Meaning you have to sort of think of yourself as being like a sieve. And as your kids get older, you can open how much information goes through. And so we're going to keep that sieve closed and just a little bit open. And so if they ask you accurately, but just basically, so it might sound to a little kid, you might say, well, people are really sad right now because there's 2 countries and those 2 countries are fighting and people are getting hurt and it's making people really sad. But we're here and we're safe and it's happening very far away, but it's making the rest of us very sad. And so the world is watching. That might be enough.
Beautiful. I love how you answered that. This might sound silly, but you actually gave me goosebumps in the way you answered that, because it really, you were accurate, you gave the information you needed to know, and you helped them to feel safe.
And under 7 isn't how we're spending our time learning how to share the sandbox, share our toys. People aren't getting along. Countries don't get along. We need to learn how to share. So you're sort of supporting some good values too.
Definitely. All right. So we have more to discuss on this topic. We're going to go through a couple different age categories. So make sure you keep watching. We'll be right back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
I'm a singer-songwriter from 6 Nations, and I've been writing songs about my experience, and with that being said, it's helped me hold hope in my heart in following my dreams and being resilient to everyday Indigenous battles. Competition between spirit, earth, and wind, let me tell you now. This song in particular, The Shiner, is a special song that I wrote for my grandfather. He was a snow snake maker, and that is a Haudenosaunee winter sport. It's my job to educate and to share, and the music allows me to do that.
He'll be shining snow snakes and mud cats to the end of his days.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So I have parenting expert and family counselor and the host of the parenting show, Allison Schaefer, on the show. And we're coming back to talk more about how to talk to our children about some challenging situations that are going on in the world, such as the war between Ukraine and Russia. So Allison, thank you for hanging on. Thank you for joining us. So
Thank you for covering such an important topic.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there who are either tongue-tied or just they don't know how to approach the topic with their kids. So in the first half, we were talking about 7 and under age category. And so for, I guess, the 8 to 12-year-olds, how would you approach the subject with them?
Yeah, eight is a developmental age where the brain just gets a little bit more sophisticated. When people go through like Piaget's different stages in development, we can just work a little bit more cognitively with kids 8 and up. And yet they're still not as sophisticated as a teenager. So you've kind of got this little window in between where we now have less control over the access of information. They're more likely to hang out on the playground at school, talk to their friends' older siblings. It is likely that they are going to know one way or another about what's going on in the world. And they play video games. And so they're going to know when they hear the word war, when they hear nuclear, like they have a context to know how big and scary all of that is. They play single shooter games. So it has a different interpretation for this age group. So we really have to be on the ball to help them process this appropriately. So I would start by actually asking them, which you can't with 7 and under, they wouldn't be able to have the language to really pull it together. But from the time they're 8, you could say, what have you seen? What have you heard? And what are you making of all of that? So it's really important for them to do the talking first, because then you can see how they're cobbling all this stuff together in their mind. And so that if they share with you, and again, here's where the misinterpretations come down. Like some kids think a world war, because they hear that word, they think that there are soldiers like here, in Brampton or something. Like they just hear the word world and they think the world means everyone is a war zone. So there's an opportunity then to see what they've come to understand and be able to give some correction, clarification, a sense of security about what's going on. So that's really important. And the whole time that we're kind of talking, again, remember that children look to us to see reflected back whether or not they are safe. So I know that many, even as adults, we are concerned about the escalations and we're following this story. But we want to be able to project to our kids an infectious attitude. Like, if I think we're okay, then you need to look at me and know I'm the adult in your life providing safety. And if I'm okay, you're okay. So it's okay to be concerned. It's okay to be sad. But I really want to hold that ground for them. And so as they're starting to see that there's this unrest, and they're learning more accurately, and like I said, we're letting more information through. They might be getting more worried about what they're hearing and the state of affairs over there. It is not uncommon for those kids then to start maybe having some nightmares or wanting to just be a little bit clingier, or to be around you more. They want like just when you think that the world is not safe. And we saw this at the beginning of the pandemic, and that was with a virus floating around and wondering if it was going to kill off your relatives. Now we're worried about the world events. And so it's natural for kids to want to go back to their primary attachment figure and get that reassurance and hang a little closer, a little tighter to them. But I'm going to say this again. It's really imperative that you don't lie. If kids discover a truth and that they have been lied to, you shatter their world conception that you are a reliable resource for information. So, if you lied about Ukraine, well, how do I know that you didn't lie about, whatever, who's my father, or if you love me, or any of other million things that you've told me. So it's really important that we're a credible source to our kids. They're also at the age where they're starting to learn about how to curate information. So as we're teaching kids to be digital citizens, this is a good time to have educational information conversations about how we get dysregulated when we hear bad news. And that's one of the reasons why we have to use our own self-control to put ourselves on a bit of a media diet, so that we say, I'm willing to know a little bit about what's going on, but if I watch it all day long, that's actually a form of an internet use disorder, where they just have to, they become obsessed with the content, and they just sort of go down a rabbit hole. You can't watch a war 24/7. You're going to be upset the whole time. So we want to teach them how to put limits and boundaries on themselves, and just say, trust me, that if there's an update that you need to know about, I will let you know. But for right now, let me be in charge of keeping on top of things. And even I, as an adult, keep a media diet. And I'm very concerned about what's happening there. I have friends there. I gave the keynote in Lviv in August. It's very near and dear to my heart. But I have to also keep my own mental health, because I'm a clinician. I have to hold everybody else's anxiety and panic and depression, So I'm on a news diet. I get accurate information. I know my sources. And so we can start talking about those ideas with kids. And don't go more than some kids really don't. It's not necessarily a big thing for all kids.
Allison, we only have about 30 seconds left. Can
Yeah.
you please let us know how to talk to our teens about this in 30 seconds or less?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So with our teens, you can get into it. You can actually say to them, so what do you think about democracy? And do you think it was right that they actually joined NATO? And was that a threat? And, the conscription, you can get so deep into this conversation now, because they're ready to have that conversation. Again, if they're into history, if they're into politics, you've got so much to talk about. But if they're not, don't push the agenda. Do not push the agenda. You can't make them get excited, but you can use it for conversations that are contextual to their life.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much, Allison. It was wonderful to have you on the show. We'll be right back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
Sometimes it's hard to say goodbye to an old friend. But when you're saying farewell to your vehicle, Kidney Car makes it fast and easy. Just call or visit our website. We'll take any vehicle in any condition and give you a tax receipt for a minimum of $300. No headaches and no towing charges. It's the one-stop solution for getting rid of your unwanted vehicle in just a few short minutes. When your vehicles reach the end of the road, call us toll-free or visit kidneycar.ca.
Illness doesn't have to be a life sentence. Join me each week on Health 180 with Carrie and Fenn as we talk with doctors and other experts about how to reset your life after an illness. Learn health and wellness tips, patient stories, advice, and solutions from professionals on how to be the best you. Together we are stronger. That's Health 180 with Carrie and Fenn right here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I have with me on the show Elizabeth LaBelle from the Durham Humane Society, who has some furry friends who are ready for their forever home. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry about that. One of the cats wanted to get very up close and personal with you guys.
Love it. Who is this little guy?
So this one here is actually Bacon. Bacon is lovely. He is the oldest in the group. There are 4 of them that you'll see wandering around, 3 that are orange and buff. So we have Bacon here. We have Oz way in the back. And then behind me, I've got Peanut, and Peanut's hanging out here. And then I think way in the back, you'll see a white and black one, and that one is Spud, which is really cute.
I have to ask you, how do you come up with these awesome names, especially Bacon?
So they actually came with those names. So Bacon has always been Bacon, and he is the most affectionate cat you will ever meet. Before you guys and I started talking today, he was nuzzling my nose, he was giving my forehead kisses, he was bumping, like he's just the most affectionate boy.
Aw, how old do you think Bacon is?
So Bacon is about 10.
Okay, so he feels good in his body and who he is and what he likes, and he's not afraid to show his love. That's great.
Absolutely. No, he is the sweetest little boy you will ever meet. He can go into almost any kind of a home, good with other cats, good with kids, good with potentially dogs. He's just like the most amazing boy ever.
Okay, so tell us about the little redhead Peanut.
Yeah, so actually Peanut, Spud, and Oz all came to the shelter together. They are okay to go to separate homes because they're not super bonded. But if they were to go together, that would be amazing because it would be nice to see them in a home together. And they're very affectionate. They're a little bit shy at first, but very sweet overall. They're very cuddly. Spud will come right over and he'll lean right in for pets and cuddles. They're just a really great group of socialized cats.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you know anything about their background as to why they were needing to be given up?
So with all of the cats that come into our shelter, all of the animals, the main reason people surrender their animals is just because they're unable to continue to care for them. They're unable to. Ooh, sorry about that, guys. The cats go where the cats like to go. Bacon wanted to jump up and sit on top. In most cases, if they're surrendered, it's because somebody is unable to continue caring for them. He's going to do it right again. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. He really likes TV. He wants to get right into it.
He was born for stardom.
I think we should maybe bring him to the Rogers studios. That he can be our mascot.
Yes, absolutely. He would run the show.
Oh, that's fabulous. So just for people who are new to watching the show and maybe new to maybe the processes of the Durham Humane Society, if someone is interested in adopting a pet, what is the process that they would take?
Yeah, so our adoption process actually just recently changed. So now we ask that you submit an application, and then we call you when we do a pre-screening. So it's just a quick 5-minute conversation to get to know you and to make sure that we have an animal in the shelter that will best fit your home. And then we have you come down to the shelter and we have you meet a couple of the cats and see their personalities and chat with you a little bit further. We do a bit of a counseling session to make sure that everyone is on board with bringing the animal in the home. Everybody has the tools to be able to care for the animal in the home. And after that, we send them home with you.
If someone has never owned a cat before, would you still consider them for adopting a pet?
Absolutely. We have lots of cats in our shelter that would do well with first-time adopters. And we love to see people who are interested in adopting reaching out to us if they have questions, if they want to know more about how to adopt or what kind of an animal would suit their home. That's what we're here for. We're here to educate and help promote adoption.
Now, cats are fairly easy to take care of as they're fairly independent. How often, let's say, would you recommend needing to change a litter box? You know, just to educate people who maybe have never had a cat.
Yeah, so the great thing about litter boxes is as long as you are cleaning them, I would say, and when I say cleaning, I mean scooping them out. I would recommend scooping them at least once a day, if not mornings and evenings. And then generally speaking, you shouldn't have to empty the whole thing more than maybe every other week.
Okay. Okay, great. And I also love how they have those little food dispensers so they can go and help themselves when they're hungry, unless, of course, it's an overweight cat. But
There are things called automatic feeders for cats that are overweight that will only dispense certain amounts of food per day. So there are lots of options out there. There's also things called slow feeders or food puzzles. And basically, it's a dish that has a bunch of spots for the food to hide in so that the cat has to work a little bit harder to enrich themselves. It kind of forces them to think a little bit harder how to get their food and things like that. So they get a little bit of play through it, and they also have to work a little bit harder to get it as opposed to just guzzling it down.
nice. Oh, that's beautiful. You're always a plethora of information, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
Hi, I'm Constable Darrell Rice, Durham Regional Police Service. Tune into Rogers Cable 10 to watch me on Seniors Talk with DRPS, where we'll talk about all kinds of amazing information and community programs for you, our seniors in Durham Region.
I'm Eric Marchinosa's Cinema Scene in Review. Join me for a monthly movie roundup of new releases either in theaters or available to stream. See you next time in Review.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So that is another wrap to a show. So I want to thank our guests, Allison and Elizabeth, for being on the show. It was wonderful to have their expertise. Now, if you would like to make a donation to the Ukraine, Rogers customers can make a $5 donation simply by sending a text to, and it needs to say Rogers, to 20222. Or if you'd like to send it en français, you can send that text. Again, it's writing the word Rogers, and this time to 30333, and that can help you to make a $5 donation to assist the Ukraine. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be right back next week for more on Uxbridge Scugog Life. Bye.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
This time of year, the water gets cold, and the air is getting colder. You want to make sure you're prepared. Watch the weather, dress for the weather. In the event that you're out and you get stranded, you want to make sure your cell phone is fully charged. We also recommend that you wear your PFD this time of year, just because hypothermia comes quicker than in the summertime. In the event that you fall in, you're going to start to gasp. You have 1 minute to catch your breath. You have 10 minutes of dexterity in your hands and your legs. This will allow you to climb back onto your boat or swim to safety. And then after an hour, you have the possibility of having a heart attack.